again, thank you for coming to the Bass Pro Shops tonight on a Tuesday night out of your busy schedule and have to go to work tomorrow. So what I'm going to talk about is, I always just do like a little fishing report or something like that, and then Matt will come up and talk about what he wants to talk about, fishing report, and Daniel might come up and say something. Then we have our guest speaker, Larry Mantle, to come up, and we'll save him for last. So he's the most important here today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a tournament that I did this Saturday. I went up to Roosevelt, and instead of going up blind and not pre-fishing, I decided I'm going to go up 2 days and check this out, because Roosevelt's getting a lot of water right now. I mean, the salt was running at 6,900 cubic feet per second. The tunnel was up over 1,000 cubic feet a second. Both ends of the lake are muddy. The salt comes all the way past Windy Hill, way past, and that's all mud. I mean, I tried to go up and fish in it, and it was like, whoa. The temperature dropped like 4 degrees. It went down to 48, 49, 50 degrees. The main lake was holding at about 53, 52, 53. So with that, both ends were dirty, so I practiced mainly in clearer water. I did hit some of the stained water, but my pre-fishes were not good. I went up Thursday morning, 25 degrees. The boat was iced up. There was a 1/4 inch of ice on the boat, and it was cold. Went out and practiced, and I thought, well, I'm going to break the lake down. It's not that big anymore since I can't fish on the far end. So I went out and I started on the tonneau, caught 3 fish from the tonneau, going to the dam. And then I thought the next day I'll go from the dam over to Windy Hill. So I covered 2 different areas of the lake and broke it down. Like first day I told you I only caught 3 fish. That was it. All I was doing is graphing and trying to find these fish. And not to stick a lot of fish, but to find them. What depth they were in, what would they bite on, The next day I went out, did the same thing. Just went out, and there was a lot of guys that are pre-fishing. I didn't realize that many guys get the days off. The young guys that work jobs, So I thought just us retirees would be up there, but nope. There was a ton of guys up there pre-fishing. So they take this stuff pretty serious. So started my tournament day, and I thought, well, where am I going to go? Well, I'm going to go to the tonneau, and I'm going to do just like the pre-fish, start the tonneau, start at some of my points down there by the ramp. The mud line came all the way from the very end of the tonneau all the way to Choya Ramp. All right, so it was pretty dirty. But I went across to Methodist, and it wasn't dirty over there. It was stained, but not dirt, muddy red. So I started over there and started crankbaiting, spinnerbaiting, trying to get a reaction bite, nothing. The fish, the temperature of the water dropped from Friday, it was 57.9, almost 58 degrees. It dropped down to Saturday morning, 52. That's traumatic to fish. I mean, when I hit those fish, they just shut down. And Matt and I just did a little interview over here. You'll be able to see that on YouTube, what we're talking about, all our lakes and all our pre-fishes and what we did. So you can stay tuned to that when you can watch that on Fishing with Gary on our YouTube channels and stuff. So I started down there, and we were just trying to catch 5 fish. We said, my partner and I, James, and he's not here tonight, he's sick. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back 15 years ago, and I'm going to rig up my double rig, a drop shot and a jig. Now, this is just a regular hula grub, but it's a chompers, 4-inch chompers. And it's garlic scented, so it smells really like a lot of garlic, all right? So this is what I used. And then in practice, all I caught fish on was a drop shot or a jig. So I thought I would throw this, and I rigged this Texas rig so that I could just climb this over those rocks just real slow, just pulling them over, fish for 2 hours, never got a bite. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a really good day, This 5 fish limit's kind of shrinking. So my partner was goofing around, and we were just laughing about it and having a good time, and he says, you know what, I got a friend I take fishing with me, Hector, and he says, I'm going to pull a Hector. So he takes his bait, turns around. Now we're in 25 feet of water and we're throwing on the bank. So he says, I'm pulling a Hector, I'm gonna throw out. So he threw his bait as far as he could out to the main lake. So he landed in 50 feet of water. And he sinks and he's pulling out line, pulling out line, pulling out line. And all of a sudden he's working it in slow, working it in, he's pulling, he goes, man, it feels like this, like, you know, I'm caught on something. I said, start reeling. And he starts reeling, his line just bends over. I said, now set the hook, you got one on. So he sets the hook. So he reels in about a 2.5 pounder, you know. The eyes were coming out a little bit, and I had to poke the stomach down the throat a little bit, you know, but I got him back to living, and then I fizzed him a little bit, and that did it. He came back to life, and he was in the live well. So he weighed in exactly at 2.5, so I thought, man, I'm gonna pull a Hector. So I turned around with this rig, and I just threw it as far as I could and just peeled out line and started working. I did it about 4 times, and finally, in 35 feet of water, man, my rod loaded up, I set the hook, I caught a 3.5 pounder. It was like, whoa. So I told James, I said, I'm staying deep the rest of the day. I don't care if you cast towards the shore or what you do, but this bait's going out the other way. So I stayed out from 27 to 40 feet the whole day. And we caught 11 fish. We weighed 1477. Big fish was 443. And we were real close to second place. If it wasn't for their Hail Mary last cast that this guy got second, told me, he made a last cast, caught a 5.5 pounder and called out a 1.5 pounds in the last cast. So if it wasn't for that. So I was thinking, you know, I came up with this bobber stopper trick about 4 years ago, you know, of moving this thing up like this and this without tying that polymer knot on there, you know. So I thought, you know what, I wonder what else I can do with this bobber stopper stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'll bet you if I took my bullet weight and I moved that up and I stuck a bobber stopper under that bullet weight on the top and the bottom, you know, I bet you I could make a Carolina rig out of this. So I did just that. Let me grab that little sucker. So what I did was I pulled this stunt. Now I have a trifecta on one pole. I have a drop shot, I have my Carolina rig, or I have my Texas rig. So I can take this jig off, I can put a worm on it, I can put a brush hog on it, and I would alternate that throughout the day. And I kept doing that thinking, well, maybe they'll hit a you know, a Carolina rig, because in the wintertime, these fish will hit Carolina rigs. They will. So I kept pushing that up, sliding it down, pushing it, and it was really weird because I'd catch one on this, then I'd catch one on the Carolina rig, then I wouldn't catch any. So I slid the sinker down. Now I caught it on the Texas rig. It was like I did this all day long, and it seemed to work, you know. So today I was out at Bartlett. I was out on a guide trip today, and so I did this exact same thing. I took this rig, and I was fishing, the client was drop shotting and Texas rigging, and I thought, I wonder if this will work at Bartlett. And Bartlett's all muddied up too. It's full of mud. The temperature there is 51 degrees. And it was brutally cold this morning, white capping, miserable, you know. And the client said, boy, I picked a good day to go fishing with you, didn't I? And I said, yeah. I said, I hope you don't count on catching 25 fish today. So it ain't gonna happen. But anyway, we actually only caught 2 fish in 6 hours, you know, 5 hours. So, you know, but I alternate this, and I couldn't get him to hit the jig. So what I did was I just put on a trick worm, a watermelon candy trick worm. So I took the jig off and put the watermelon worm on, slid this up just a little bit like this, and that's how I ended up catching, you know, some fish today by that. I caught 2 fish. The client missed 3. And that's kind of the problem what I had when I take pitbull fishing. They don't know the difference between a bite and a rock or something unless it really hits them hard. And that's another secret that there is about fishing in the wintertime. They don't bite your bait. They just grab it and they sit there with it. They got it in their mouth, they're just sitting there. They very rarely will knock that bait in the wintertime. It's just to put it in your mouth, sit there, you start to pull and you go, is that a rock or is that a fish? You know, I even made a video of that at Bartlett one day. Is that a rock or is that a fish? What do you do when that happens? You know, do you swing for it? So in my video, I do this. And I come to that conclusion sometimes too. Is that a rock or is it a fish? What I do is, if I'm in that situation, I start reeling, just like I just told you about my client, my partner, James. You start reeling, and if that's coming and you get 3 cranks on that reel, you got a fish on. You better start setting the hook. Okay, you don't, now if it's a drop shot, you can start reeling and crank that fish and set the hook, but on a Texas rig or a jig, you need to actually set that hook because it isn't gonna happen. You're gonna lose your fish, and that's what happened today. So you just have to set the hook and, you know, get this down in his throat.